Chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gohmert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've had the question asked a couple of times, why are we here? So that my colleagues will understand why we were here, and so they understand from somebody that went down all around the coast area after this disaster. The biggest disaster to the coastal area came not from the oil that was from escaping. It came from the order of this president to have a moratorium on shallow water drilling that put thousands and thousands of people out of work, put thousands and thousands of people into poverty, put thousands and thousands of people into needy situations because this president acted on the recommendations of experts who did not make those recommendations. So I think it is critically important that we find out more about the process. And I appreciate the Inspector General's position that it is sufficient to ask individuals if they were involved or if there was a problem. And I think it would come as great news and comfort to investigators all over the country, including the criminal investigators that we've been told are moving forward, if they knew that all they had to do is not gather evidence, not look at hard drives, as people were directed not to do in this case, as we see from the emails, and as they were directed not to review emails of people who were involved, and as we see from the email by Richard Larrabee, where he says, in a letter actually, as you know, I was directed to not ask for Secretary Counselor Steve Black's emails that contained the actual draft sent to and returned by the White House, even though he told us he had them if we wanted them. So let me ask you, who directed Richard Larrabee not to request those emails and not to review hard drives?
I don't know. But
did you investigate who might have directed him not to acquire those emails? Wouldn't that have been important from an Inspector General's standpoint?
he did receive the emails. These are the emails we are
The
talking
question was, who directed him not to?
Sir, I don't know that.
So would it be important to know why Richard Larrabee was lying if he received emails and he said he was not? Would that cause you concerns with his inconsistency?
If I may, at Steve Black's first interview with the case agent, he offered the emails to the case agent.
He points that out. Ma'am, I've covered that. I'm asking you who directed him. He points out that he was told by Black that he could have them, and then he was directed by somebody not to get the emails. Who directed that?
He chose not to accept them at the time.
So he lied when he said he was directed not to ask for them. Wouldn't that be worth investigating, why you're saying Richard Larrabee lied in this letter that he wrote and said, where he said, I was directed not to ask them?
I would be interested in knowing who he said.
Well, don't you have the authority to ask that question?
Sir, I have not done anything to put this case agent in jeopardy because he is, as the...
Ma'am, I would submit to you that you have done nothing to put anybody in jeopardy, and your job is to investigate the facts, and if somebody is worthy of being put in jeopardy, you do so. Ma'am, I heard you say that you could not, in fact, you said, gee, I recognized my potential for a conflict of interest, but we were in a crisis, and I could not sit by and do nothing, so that tells us you did participate. You couldn't sit by and do nothing, whereas, ma'am, I would tell you that as a judge and Chief Justice, there were times I saw lawyers not doing an effective job or an investigator not doing what he should have, but I knew I could not compromise my position because it was too important, so I didn't jump in and do those jobs. That is what an inspector general is supposed to do. Make sure, as you said, I recognize my potential for a conflict of interest, and you should have protected that. And so as a result, we have a report that cost thousands and thousands of people more misery than the oil that was coming out of the floor did. We can't even find most of that now. And I would submit to you that you should first do no harm, and you could have avoided the harm if you had helped us get to the truth. You complained about how long this had gone on. I would submit to you, if you're consistent, it doesn't go on long at all. I'll yield back.
Time of the gentleman has expired.